Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into evolution? We're going all the way back to the beginning, from the Big Bang to the appearance of humans, billions of years of history. It's gonna be amazing.
You bet it is. Evolution is a story that spans billions of years, not just a few thousand.
Okay, so first let's go back to the Big Bang, that incredible explosion about 13.8 billion years ago. That's when all the matter and energy in the universe came into existence. Pretty wild to think about, right?
Right. And eventually, all that matter and energy formed galaxies and stars and planets, including our own little Earth about 4.5 billion years ago.
Our home planet. But early Earth wasn't exactly a paradise, was it?
No, not at all. It was a fiery, molten world. Volcanic eruptions everywhere, no atmosphere, no oceans, just a scorching hot, chaotic mess.
Not exactly a place you'd want to visit. But things cooled down eventually, right?
Exactly. Over millions of years, water vapor condensed, forming oceans, and gases created a primitive atmosphere.
So that's how we got our atmosphere and oceans?
Yep. And those gases played a crucial role in setting the stage for life.
So then, how did life actually begin? For centuries, people believed in spontaneous generation, right? The idea that life just magically appeared from non-living matter.
Yeah, like maggots appearing on rotting meat.
But we know that's not true. Life only comes from pre-existing life.
Right. Thanks to Louis Pasteur and his experiments that debunked the spontaneous generation theory.
Okay, so where did the very first life come from then?
Well, that's a big question. Some astronomers think it came from somewhere else in the universe and was brought to Earth.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the theory is called panspermia. It suggests that life might have hitched a ride to Earth on something like a comet or asteroid.
So like an interstellar hitchhiker. That's pretty amazing. Is there any evidence for that?
Well, evidence is hard to come by, and it's still debated.
Yeah.
But the more widely accepted theory is chemical evolution. Scientists Alperin and Haldane propose that life arose from non-living organic molecules like RNA and proteins.
Under those extreme conditions on early Earth.
Exactly. Those conditions were perfect for creating the building blocks of life.
Okay, but how do we know that's even possible?
Well, in 1953, the scientists Miller and Urey did a really cool experiment. They simulated those early Earth conditions in a lab. They had gases like methane, ammonia, hydrogen, water vapor, and even electric sparks to mimic lightning.
So they recreated early Earth in a lab. What happened?
They created amino acids.
What are those?
Amino acids are the building blocks of proteins.
Wow, so they actually created the ingredients for life in a lab. That's incredible.
It was a groundbreaking experiment. It provided strong support for the idea of chemical evolution. It showed that life could have come from non-living matter under those early Earth conditions.
Okay, that's amazing. So now we've got the ingredients for life in this primordial soup. But how did those simple molecules evolve into all the amazing life we see today?
That's where Charles Darwin comes in. He's like the rock star of evolution.
I remember learning about Darwin and his theory of natural selection, survival of the fittest, right?
Exactly. He traveled the world on a ship called the HMS Beagle and saw all kinds of amazing creatures.
What did he see?
Well, he saw finches with different beaks on different islands. He realized that the finches with beaks best suited for their environment were the ones that survived and reproduced.
Like if a finch had a beak perfect for cracking seeds on one island where seeds were plentiful, it would be more likely to survive and pass on that beak shape to its offspring.
Exactly. Over time, the population of finches on that island would have more and more of those seed-cracking beaks. That's natural selection in action.
So it's not just about being strong, it's about being well-suited to your environment.
Right. And Darwin wasn't the only one to figure this out. Another scientist, Alfred Russel Wallace, had similar ideas at the same time.
Great minds think alike, right? So we've got this amazing theory of evolution by natural selection, but is there any proof? Well, there's tons of evidence. Fossils, embryos, anatomy, even DNA, all tell the same story.
Okay, let's start with fossils. Those are the remains of ancient organisms preserved in rock.
Like those dinosaur fossils I saw at the museum.
Exactly. They're like snapshots of life from different periods in Earth's history.
So we can see how life has changed over millions of years.
Exactly. We see a progression from simple organisms to more complex ones, like a timeline etched in stone.
It's amazing, like having a time machine. Okay, what about embryos? How do they provide evidence?
Have you ever noticed that embryos of different animals, like fish, birds, and even humans, look really similar in their early stages of development?
Yeah, I've seen pictures. It's kind of freaky how similar they look.
It is. We all start out with gill slits, even though we lose them before birth. These shared features suggest a common ancestry, a connection between all living things.
Wow, so we're all related in a way.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got fossils and embryos. What about anatomy? What can we learn from that?
Well, take the forelimbs of whales, bats, and humans. They all have a similar bone structure, even though they're used for totally different things. Swimming, flying, and grabbing.
Wait, so my arm and a whale's fin have similar bones. That's crazy.
It is. It's called a homologous structure. It shows that we share a common ancestor with whales, even though we evolved to live in very different environments.
So evolution takes a basic blueprint and modifies it to create all these amazing adaptations.
That's right. And then there are analogous structures. These are structures that look and function similarly, but have different origins, like the wings of birds and insects.
Oh yeah, they both allow for flight but are built completely differently.
Exactly. It shows that similar environments can lead to similar traits, even in unrelated organisms.
So evolution has a lot of tricks up its sleeves. Okay, last one, DNA. How does DNA support evolution?
Well, DNA is the blueprint of life. Similarities in DNA between different organisms provide strong evidence for common ancestry. The closer the DNA match, the more closely related the organisms are.
It's like a molecular fingerprint that reveals the connections between all living things.
Exactly. It's pretty amazing.
It is. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. From the Big Bang to DNA, there's so much evidence for evolution. But now I want to see it in action. I've heard about Darwin's finches and how they show the power of diversification. Can you tell me more about them?
Of course. Darwin's finches are a classic example of adaptive radiation.
What's that?
It's when one ancestral species evolves into many different species, each adapted to a specific ecological niche.
And that's what happened with Darwin's finches.
Exactly. On the Galapagos Islands, Darwin observed finches with different beak shapes and sizes, each perfectly suited for different food sources.
So over time, one finch species gave rise to all these different finch species with specialized beaks.
Yep. Some had beaks for crushing seeds, others for probing for insects, and still others for sipping nectar from flowers. It's like they each found their own culinary niche.
That's amazing. So adaptive radiation is like evolution's way of creating diversity.
You got it. It's proof that evolution is a powerful force that can shape life in incredible ways.
Okay, this is all so fascinating. But what about us? Where do humans fit into this grand evolutionary story?
Well, that's a story for another deep dive. We'll explore the amazing journey of human evolution next time.
I can't wait.
It's going to be epic. Okay, so imagine this. About 15 million years ago, our primate ancestors, Drypithecus and Ramapithecus, swinging through the trees.
Wow, so they were like,
Yeah, hairy ape-like creatures. But with something special in their genes, the potential for something incredible.
and that potential led to us. So what happened next? How did we go from swinging through the trees to walking on two legs?
Well, fossil discoveries show that between 3 and 4 million years ago, our ancestors started walking upright.
Really? That early?
Yep. These early hominids were pretty small, only about 4 feet tall, but they were walking on 2 legs across the African savannas.
Amazing. Walking upright must have been a game changer. It
Yeah.
freed up their hands to use tools and carry things.
Exactly. And their brains were getting bigger, too. Then about 2 million years ago, we see the emergence of Australopithecus.
Australopithecus, I remember learning about them. Weren't they using tools and hunting?
Yes. They were becoming more and more human-like. And among those Australopithecine fossils, scientists found something really interesting.
Tell me.
A creature with an even bigger brain and more advanced tool use. This was Homo habilis, also known as handyman.
Homo habilis, the tool maker. So this is where human ingenuity really starts to take off.
You got it. Homo habilis had a brain capacity between 650 to 800 cubic centimeters, which is a big jump from their predecessors.
So their brains were getting bigger, they were using tools, and they were probably communicating in more complex ways. What happened next?
Well, around 1.5 million years ago, Homo erectus arrived on the scene.
Homo erectus. What were they like?
They were even smarter than Homo habilis, with a brain size around 900 cubic centimeters. They had mastered fire and were the first hominids to migrate out of Africa.
Wait, they left Africa. Wow. So they were exploring new territories, adapting to new environments. That's incredible.
It is. And as they spread across the globe, they continued to evolve. Then, between 100,000 and 40,000 years ago, we see the appearance of Neanderthals.
Neanderthals, they're fascinating. Weren't they incredibly intelligent?
Yes, they were. Their brains were actually larger than ours, averaging about 1,400 cubic centimeters.
Wow, really? Larger than ours?
Yep. They were skilled tool makers, they used fire, they wore clothing, they buried their dead, and some scientists even believe they had some form of language.
So they were pretty advanced.
Definitely. They lived in complex societies and had rituals. They were very much like us in many ways.
It's amazing to think how much we've learned about them. So where do we fit into all of this? When did Homo sapiens, modern humans, first appear?
Homo sapiens emerged in Africa about 200,000 years ago.
And what sets us apart from other hominids?
We developed complex language, abstract thought, creativity, and a deep desire to understand the world around us. We started creating art, telling stories, and building civilizations.
And it's all thanks to evolution. It's the driving force behind everything we are today.
That's right. From those early primates swinging through the trees to us sitting here today, evolution has shaped every step of the journey. It's an incredible story, and it's still unfolding.
So we've seen how evolution has shaped life over billions of years. But it's not just about the past, right?
Right. Evolution is happening right now all around us.
It's like life is constantly adapting and changing.
Exactly. Think about bacteria. They're evolving resistance to antibiotics all the time.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
And
It's becoming a big problem.
it is. And it's a direct result of evolution. We're also seeing insects adapting to pesticides and plants developing defenses against herbivores.
It's like nature is always finding new ways to survive.
Exactly. It's a never-ending arms race.
And we humans are part of this arms race too, aren't we?
Absolutely. Our actions have a huge impact on the environment.
Like climate change and habitat destruction.
Exactly. We're altering the playing field, and that's driving evolutionary change in so many species.
It's kind of scary to think about.
Yeah.
We're not just watching evolution happen, we're influencing it.
We are, which is why it's so important to understand it.
So we can make better choices for the future.
Exactly. If we want to conserve biodiversity, manage ecosystems, and protect our own health, we need to understand evolution.
It's like a key to understanding life itself.
It is. It connects us to all living things and helps us see the big picture.
Wow. This deep dive has been incredible. I've learned so much about how life began, how it's changed over time, and how it's still evolving today.
It's been a journey through billions of years.
From the Big Bang to the present day.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to think that evolution is still shaping our world.
And it'll continue to shape the future.
So it's up to us to learn from the past and make wise choices for the future.
To protect the incredible diversity of life on Earth.
That's a great message to end on. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into evolution.
It's been my pleasure.
And to all you listeners out there, keep asking questions, keep exploring, and never stop being curious about the amazing world around us.